How's it going, guys? Happy Friday. We are just days away from the Week 3 matchup between the New York Giants and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Of course, we will be traveling down to Tampa Bay for that ball game. And as always, I'm just here to give you my top 5 things to watch out for. A lot of storylines going on in New York at this point in time. Obviously, mainly who's that starting quarterback, but I'm gonna get into that and much more. If you enjoy the video, please leave a like and sub to the channel if you haven't already. I'm here every single week for all your New York Giants updates, news, pre-game review, post-game review, reactions, all of that good stuff. But without further ado, let's get into the list. Number 5, a rejuvenated wide receiver room. Early on this season, the Giants were hit by a series of injuries that just kind of crippled our team. The position that was most affected was obviously wide receiver. Now, the first hit to the wide receiver room wasn't even an injury. It was, of course, the suspension to Golden Tate, which I'm sure you've all known about by now. He's, of course, going to be out this week and then one more game next week before he can rejoin the team. While he served that suspension, we were confident that the duo of Sterling Shepard and Cody Latimer would be able to kind of fill that void while he was gone. And for some time it may have, but Sterling Shepard, of course, went down in week number 1 against the Cowboys with a concussion. Then followed up with that, Cody Latimer went down in week number 2 against the Bills with a concussion. On top of that, the Giants' 5th round draft pick, Darius Slayton, has been battling a hamstring injury virtually all season, really only seeing time in one preseason game. So the combination of Tate's suspension and all of these injuries that we've had to deal with, our wide receiver room has become very, very thin. So thin that the Giants decided to re-sign TJ Jones, who was a standout during preseason, to a contract, and he actually had a touchdown last week against the Buffalo Bills. But coming into week 3, we do have some positives. Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton both were participants in practice, which definitely bodes well for them returning in week number 3 in this ball game. It would be incredible to see Sterling out in the field because undoubtedly, out of everyone, he has the most experience at wide receiver on our team. But just as impactful, if Slayton was able to make his NFL debut, obviously a virtually unknown, it would be incredible for Daniel Jones, who's making his first start, to have yet another weapon out on the field. Of course, the focus of our passing offense anyway has been Evan Ingram as of late, which I fully expect to continue because he's been racking up the yards. He's been getting open. He's definitely, outside of Saquon Barkley, been our most dominant asset on offense. But outside of all of those guys, as I mentioned, TJ Jones has been re-signed. And if you watched any of preseason, the rapport between Daniel Jones and TJ Jones has been really, really good. Jones trusts to throw the ball to him even when he's covered. And I definitely expect to see that combination exploit the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. The Giants have battled through all the trials and tribulations in this wide receiver room all offseason, starting with the trading of Odell Beckham Jr. So it should be really exciting this week to see if these guys can return and make an impact on the field. Number 4, will our D-line ever show up? Last week we came away with 3 sacks, which is impressive and a much better performance than in week 1 against Dallas, where we really weren't able to generate any sort of a pass rush. The problem with that is all of those sacks came from our outside linebackers. Now, there's a big difference between getting a pass rush from your defensive line and from your outside linebackers. Now, obviously, when you're blitzing your exterior linebackers, you have less people in coverage to protect against the pass. Against Tampa Bay, we need to rely on our defensive line to get a rush on Jameis Winston. Coming into the season, I really thought that we had one of the better defensive lines and one of the more underrated D-lines in football. But it's starting to appear that they might have been rated accurately. BJ Hill, Dexter Lawrence, and Dalvin Tomlinson need to be a factor in this pass rush game if we have any chance of winning. And thus far this season, they really haven't. Now, don't get me wrong, they've definitely assisted in the pass stuffing game, mainly in week 1. Week 2, Singletary kind of ran all over us. But regardless, they have assisted in that. But we cannot allow quarterbacks to have 5, 6, 7, and upwards amounts of time to make multiple reads in the pocket. Jameis Winston has shown when pressured, he's liable to make mistakes. He's liable to throw that ball up, which resulted in 3 interceptions in week 1. So we need to exploit that. We need to get pressure on him and make him make mistakes to get his team out of the ball game. I'm going to get into this topic later on in the video, but our defensive line needs to step up and help out our secondary. By that, I mean what I just said. Get pressure on Jameis Winston so he throws those balls up. On top of that, Jordan Jenkins had a lot of statements this week to the media, and again, I'm going to get into that when I get into the section of this video about the secondary. But we just cannot allow quarterbacks that much time. So it's without question that this is number 4 on my top 5 things to watch for in week number 3. Number 3, Saquon Barkley. It would be easy enough just to throw Saquon Barkley on this list every single week because he's just a highlight reel player. Anytime he touches the ball, something incredible could potentially happen, whether that's a insane juke or he breaks away from all defenders for a long touchdown. But he's on this list for a completely different reason this week. For the first time in his career, he has another viable threat on offense. Yes, last season Odell Beckham Jr. was on the field and he is clearly one of the elite wide receivers in the NFL. But at the same time, Eli Manning was on the field and defenses knew that Eli couldn't make all the throws, so Odell wasn't as impactful as he could have been last year. Now with Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones getting the start, a guy who has shown that he can throw the ball deep, he can fit the ball into tight windows, I fully expect Saquon Barkley to have a much more open field to run. Prior to this, far too often teams would just stack the box in anticipation of Saquon Barkley getting the ball. Now, even with that happening, Saquon has been able to exploit that and obviously get monster yardage both last season and early on this year. But now with a legitimate quarterback, a legitimate pass thrower in the backfield, the defense has to account for that. Now, Saquon Barkley is already, in my eyes and the eyes of many, the most dominant running back in football right now. He can do more with the ball than anyone else, and that's clear. So I'm very excited now that defenses have to fear the pass, what he's able to do. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be easy. Tampa Bay has shown that they have a shutdown defense. All you have to do is look to last week. Christian McCaffrey, who is a top-tier running back, a dual-threat running back in this league, was held to just 37 rushing yards by the Tampa Bay defense. So it's not going to be as easy as Daniel Jones throwing over the top, Saquon Barkley rushing for whatever he wants. There is going to be a defense on the field, and a very effective one at that. So Saquon Barkley is my number 3 thing to watch for in week number 3 against Tampa Bay, and he should still be the focal point of our offense, even with Daniel Jones getting the start. Number 2, changes to the secondary. As it has been the past 2 weeks, this is going to be one of the biggest things to watch for in week number 3. Now, coming out of week number 2, Pat Shurmur's press conference, there were really 2 big areas of discussion. One, obviously, being who's going to be the starting quarterback. And number 2, he said that changes were going to be coming to our secondary. Now, he didn't really elaborate or give too much insight onto what that was, whether or not it was a personnel thing or a scheme thing. So we're just going to have to wait and see, I guess. For the first 2 weeks of the season, we have been absolutely shredded. First by Dak Prescott, and then by Josh Allen. Now, we're not going to be able to go all season playing the way our secondary has been playing, or we're not going to win any ball games. It doesn't matter who's starting on offense if your defense can't step up to the plate. What can you do? Now, arguably, Amari Cooper was a top-level receiver when we were facing the Dallas Cowboys. But last week against Buffalo, there's really no one that sticks out as that's that guy. He's their number 1. I mean, obviously, John Brown was their number 1. But over the course of the league, he's not really a name. But going into this week, Mike Evans is without question one of the most physical and one of the most dominant wide receivers in the NFL. And we have to account for him. It's clear whatever we're doing as of right now is not working. So I'm excited to see whether or not this is a personnel change, which I've been calling for since week 1, or if it's a simple scheme fix. Now, we've had poor communication in the secondary, poor play calling, and some on the Giants believe that their teammates aren't giving enough effort or coming to play football. Watching from home week 1 against Dallas, on numerous occasions, it's poor communication. You see guys not covered on the field, and at the last moment, someone realizes that it's their assignment, or someone says, hey, get over here, because they're not in the right position. But last week, when I was live in attendance against Buffalo, it was even more obvious. You could see the whole field when you're there, obviously, and there's just guys that have no idea where they're supposed to be. That just can't happen. That's one of two things. Either the defense is too complicated, or you need to pay better attention. Now, in regards to play calling, when it's 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, or longer, and you're not covering the middle of the field, you're leaving that first down marker wide open, how can you expect your players to be effective? As you can see below, this has happened on numerous occasions where it's 3rd down and we're just getting killed over the middle because there's simply no one there. And it's not just tight ends as it was in the past, it's wide receivers on these quick slant routes that are just eating us alive. We need to fill up these holes, and we need to stop allowing teams to get easy 3rd down conversions on us. And lastly, in regards to certain players not believing some are coming to play or giving enough effort, Jordan Jenkins had a lot of comments that he made to the media in regards to some of his teammates. Now, obviously, he didn't mention any names here, but I had a pretty good idea just based on watching the games of who he was talking about, and unfortunately, I think he was talking about DeAndre Baker. Now, Baker, on several occasions here, just looks like he's not even trying to come up and make tackles. He's sitting back in coverage and allowing receivers to rack up yards, and he's not really showing enough effort. Now, is it because he's having a hard time adjusting to the NFL level? Maybe. But at the same time, even in Pee Wee football, you're taught, if you don't know what to do, or if you mess up on a play, just hit somebody. Jordan Jenkins went on to mention that we also had absolutely no pass rush. As I just mentioned, our defensive line really isn't generating anything, and the reason that his assignments are getting open is because how can I cover somebody for 10 seconds? Well, on these examples here, it doesn't look like it's exactly 10 seconds, but I'll side with him on this because there are several occasions, especially in week 1, where Dak Prescott had a ton of time, and same with Josh Allen. They have plenty of time to kind of move around and evaluate every read available, and then eventually a receiver is going to get open. Now, jumping back to Pat Shurmur's press conference in regards to the personnel side of things, everything not already on the field, I really hope one of the changes that he was talking about was getting Corey Ballentine back on the field. I feel like a broken record because I legitimately say this every single week. But he is far too talented to be limited to 20% of the snaps, which is what he played last week against Buffalo. He's far too talented to be on kick return. When we're getting shredded on defense, you got to get him out there. At the very least, get him snaps. Maybe he won't be any more effective, but at the very least, he's getting experience. Especially this week, the men in our secondary need to be in good position. As I already mentioned earlier, Jameis Winston has a history of being his own worst enemy. Those 3 interceptions in week 1. He makes poor decisions at times, and when he does in week 3, we need to take advantage. Same as I said last week with Josh Allen, and we didn't take advantage of when Josh Allen threw a bad pass. We could have had 2 interceptions in that ball game, and we couldn't get it done. This week, very similar. We need to take advantage. Regardless, I'm excited to see whatever these changes are going to be to our secondary that Coach Shurmur spoke on. And it's essential that our secondary improve. Right now, we're 0-2. That's almost season suicide at this point. 0-2 is very tough to recover from, but it's not too late. And if we can make those improvements, we can win this game and potentially more in the future. But if we continue to play the way that we are right now, it's not going to happen. And number 1, Daniel Jones. Obviously, for the first time since November 1st of 2004, the New York Giants are going to trot out someone other than Eli Manning at quarterback. Yes, I know in December 3rd of 17, Geno Smith had that one start, but honestly, I pretend like that never happened. But as shocking as that news was back in 2017, This news rocked the NFL world even harder because it really showed a new changing of the guard. Geno Smith, we knew, wasn't the answer for the Giants, but now it seems like Eli probably has seen the field for the last time. I had just posted my New York Giants news video, and just minutes later, the announcement came out, and I had to make an update to that video. The topic was, when was it going to be time for the changing of the guard? How bad did it have to get before the move was made? And obviously, it only took 2 weeks. With it being so early in the season, having this move being made, it's clear that the Giants still believe in their 2019 season and feel, with Jones at the helm, we have a chance to make a playoff push. They are confident that he has the tools and the skill set to turn this thing around, and why wouldn't they? Based on everything that he's shown on the field, he looks like a very capable NFL quarterback. During preseason, Jones went 29 for 34. That's over 85% completions. 416 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. He finished those 4 games with a QBR of 137.3. That's incredible. But beyond those numbers, what got me most excited was his yards per pass, 12.2. That's music to my ears, especially with all the complaints so far this season of these short little dump-off passes to receivers or to running backs that are sometimes behind the line of scrimmage. 12.2, that's throwing beyond the sticks, which is a change for sure for this organization. I completely understand all of this occurred during preseason, and a lot of the time he was not facing starting caliber players, a lot of backups, a lot of third stringers, but he went out and did what he should have done against backups, and that's absolutely dominate. Jones has checked every box that is to be expected of a starting NFL quarterback to this point. He's physically and mentally tough, he's smart, he knows what to do with the football, and he could fit the ball into small areas where a lot of quarterbacks just simply can't. It was very smart of the Giants to give him a start in preseason so he knows the routine and understands what you have to go through going into a ball game, especially now. I mean, he's done this before, he has the routine down because he has done it. Obviously, this is the biggest news going around the NFL right now and clearly within the Giants organization. So this is without question number one. This is the thing I'm going to be watching for the most. I hope he does well. I'm sure he will. And I hope the rest of the team plays behind him and they rally around the young rookie. That's all I got for you guys today. Be on the lookout for the rest of the videos coming this week. Of course, the full game preview between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Giants. Won't be in attendance for this game, unfortunately, so there is no vlog this week, but there will be the post-game review following the outcome of the game, where I'll review everything and, as always, give my unbiased opinion. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and sub to the channel if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next one, guys.